Welcome, everyone, to the latest anime news for the week ending April 30th, 2023. We're going to start with a little weird anime news that we already kind of knew was coming, but I just think this is awesome that this is happening. The Lord of the Rings anime film is debuting in June.
Yup.
Oh my.
Because when you think Tolkien's epic fantasy series, you think multicolored hair and screaming, lots of screaming, and lines in the background and so forth. So
Thou shalt not pass will have brand new meaning.
yeah.
It's just going to be all everybody like shouting each other's names. Gandalf!
And attack names too. Got to do that.
Yes.
Right.
Sting, strike of annoyance.
Sling,
Ultimate
slashing
sling.
of orc. Ha!
Yeah.
Here we go.
This is Lord of the Rings War of the Rohirrim by Kenji Kamiyama, the guy who did the Ghost in the Shell TV series and Blade Runner and Eden of the East. It will debut at Annecy in June of 2023, but it'll open in cinemas April of 2024.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
Wild away. So yeah.
So this won't be the 70s, 80s Hobbit animated feature.
It'll be absolutely that.
It'll be much better.
We hope.
Yes.
Moving on to some announcements. Shoot. Anime announcements. There we go. PA Works has announced a new anime called, I don't have the image for it here, which is fun. Sometimes things don't work out the way you want to. I think that might actually be it. No, it is not. Anyway, we're just going to go ahead and talk for a minute because sometimes that happens.
With the bald guy.
That
will work out.
We'll get to that later. PA Works has announced a new anime called. Oh, that is it. Cool. I was on the right.
Komada, a Whisky family.
It is, yes, Komada no Whisky family. Steve.
Yeah.
The literal translation is "Welcome to the Komada Distillery." It'll open in Japan in November, but will come to Annecy earlier in the year. It is the 5th installment of their workplace anime series. Hanasako Iroha, Shirobako, Sakura Quest, Aquato.
Oh.
This is the 5th one.
Oh, wow.
It is about the young head of an ailing family whiskey distillery.
God, there's so much history behind Japanese whiskey and how they got it so badly wrong at first. But they got better. They got much better.
It's a process, Steve. Jeez,
it's a process.
Such a perfectionist.
Actually, you know what I would be curious to see is if there is an actual, like, you've seen the anime by the whiskey.
Oh,
yeah.
Somebody out there is like working on that one.
Here's my money. Oh my God.
Pretty much.
Oh, their barrel house looks like a collapse in the image. Jeez.
What a great image.
They're sopping up all that whiskey. Oh God.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you who don't know, this is part of what I do for a living. Oh God. Oh, that's horrible. Okay.
I look forward to seeing this. Having enjoyed,
I'm almost about to cry. I'm almost about to do an Oshinoko cry.
Wow.
Oh wow. Still, this looks awesome.
Yeah. Well, moving on from that to more completely different cool anime news. A Gegege no Kitaro anime origin film is coming in November. And that's the promo image. Like, wow. Kintaro's Birth, The Mystery of Gegege is the anime film opening November 17th. This is the concept visual. This is part of the 100-year anniversary of Mizuki's birth.
Wow. It's a lot of blood for a teaser.
Well,
yeah.
Wow. Well, God. All right. 2 animes in a row that I'm going to be like, I must have to see this.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Steve?
Yeah. Oh,
Toei announced a new original anime called Girls Band Cry.
Oh
Yep. Toss in your anger, joy, sadness. Toss all of it in is the tagline. An anime music video will drop May 29th for it.
Oh,
Oh god.
okay. It's not going to be Bocchi the Rock. You can tell just by the image itself.
Yeah.
No, this set looks more like Beck.
Yes.
Yeah.
Beck
Okay.
Maloney Chop Squad. I am.
What was it? What was the name? What was the name of the tribute band that used to play Otakon all the time?
No idea.
They did them at Surrey. They did the entire all
Wow.
the songs from that from
That's
Mongolian
cool.
Pork Chop.
Damn.
Nice. So a lot of things coming, which I'm
Wow.
looking
Yeah.
forward to.
No joke.
Yeah.
Also something that we may not be as immediately interested in, but still cool. A golf anime is coming.
Birdie Wing.
Oi Tondo.
Are the Yakuza involved?
Yeah. So the main character was disqualified as a pro golfer, not her. Was moved sort of in disgrace to the Tokara Islands, which is apparently the Japan's last unexplored wilderness, so they call it. And he encounters this naive girl who loves playing golf and is really good, and does amazing stuff despite the fact that she only ever uses a 3-iron. But she has her own kind of dark past. Here's what I love. This has been running in weekly, basically the Golf Digest of Japan. Like it's actually owned by Golf Digest company since 2014.
Wow.
Wow.
Imagine picking up like Golf Digest in America and like the last 13 pages is a Marvel comic.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, that's coming.
That's to say, we'll see the first episode when it premieres.
Yeah.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Also, just worth mentioning, passing. The Yamishibai Ghost Stories series. That's getting a season 11.
Wow.
Yep.
An anime that nobody in America like paid any attention to. Just keeps on trucking, keeps going, keeps doing its thing.
Wow.
And it's creepy. I mean, it's plenty creepy.
Very, very true. Wow. Moving on to just anime news. Just anime news. Why not? It's worth noting in passing. Oshi no Ko. The opening theme song to that is the #1 song on Spotify in Japan.
Because if you had enough crying by the end of
Right.
the episode, just put this on your Spotify list. Have fun. Play it on repeat.
Exactly. It's called Idol. 600,000 plays on Spotify on Sunday.
Wow. Wow. There's a lot of crying going on right now.
Exactly.
A lot of tears.
Good for you, Oshinoko. Also, Masao Maruyama is angry at anime because he's Masao Maruyama.
He wants you off his lawn.
Pretty much. So he did this interview where he said, "Oh, China's going to overtake the anime industry in no time. The anime industry fails to outshine America and France. And in Japan, people are no longer trained in animation. The only reason China hasn't caught up is because of restrictions imposed on free expression. We never make anything new, and we make too many kawaii anime," is basically the gist of his interview.
So I thought he was going to go, we're making too much isekai. At which point I
think he mentioned isekai as well. Sort of too much kawaii and isekai. But, whatever.
Stay off his lawn.
Pretty much his thing. So it's kind of worth mentioning, but it's kind of like Miyazaki's, anime was a mistake. Okay.
Well, it's a requirement somewhere that every so many years somebody comes up and says, "This is the reason why anime is dying." You're like, okay, sure.
Yeah.
Sure. It's not had such unprecedented global reach in the last half decade that it would blow your mind out 30 years ago.
Sorry, this is
dying. It's a dying art.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I think we're fine.
Yeah, I think we're doing pretty well.
Speaking of which, also this week, a few things we want to mention, at least in passing. Poor Suzume. It's a shame. It's I think I have an image for it there. Yeah. Yep. It's leaving Japanese theaters. It only had a 6-month run.
Jeez. Is it still running here in America?
Yes, it actually made 1.6 million in its second weekend in the US.
Okay, I was gonna say, 'cause I doubt we'll have 6 months worth of it running.
No,
Right,
probably
no.
not. Its worldwide gross is 158 million. It has
Okay.
earned a grand total of 8.4 million in the US. Not bad.
Okay. So as long as it's made production plus profit, we're good.
Yeah, exactly. And Deadline reported it's made a total cumulative earning of 10.9 US million, but that might be, I don't know where those come from, so not sure. The Spirited Away stage play is coming back to Japan, which is kind of cool. Again, apologies, I have to scroll through all these. So in Japan in August, and then again in March, they're going to bring it back to the stage. So apparently people like that.
Okay.
Good thing.
Has it gotten favorable reviews? I'm assuming.
Oh, very much so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we're getting it in the US, so presumably it did pretty well.
Right. Okay. Cool.
All right. Something else for the pachinko parlor. Got it.
Exactly. Yes. Moving back to movie news, the first Slam Dunk hit China. It's $5 million in 4 days.
How much?
Well,
that was 13.8 million on its opening day, 38.5 to the rest of the weekend, and preview screenings where it made I think about 3 million or so. 700 IMAX screens.
Slam Dunk on IMAX screens. Holy
yeah,
cow.
can you imagine?
God.
Made $5 million off that.
Jeez.
So yeah, well done for Slam Dunk. I think you'll be fine. Unfortunately, anime is dead, so this is the last.
Yeah, he doesn't
anime we'll ever
It's
get.
the last you'll ever hear of it.
Totally. And then finally, sadly, Frank Agrama, the founder of Harmony Gold, passed away this week.
Aww.
He was, the run of that, 93 years old, born 1930 in Egypt. Got a Bachelor of Theater Arts degree at UC Los Angeles. Became a medical doctor at 23 years old, just like Blackjack. And then founded Harmony Gold in 83, chairman and CEO.
Wow.
So,
Well, yeah, lived Carl Maychek by how long?
Yeah, quite a ways.
Yeah.
There's a story Maychek told that when they licensed Robotech, Agrama gave a little speech to everyone, and he said, and I think I'm quoting correctly, "We have the unique opportunity to present a story in which audiences' expectations are always fulfilled."
Well,
we can promise amazing adventures, we can promise all these things, and that's actually what's going to happen in this show. Like it's that good. Like whatever we claim, yep, that'll happen. So, rest in peace. Godspeed. Exactly. Let's move on to the trailer of the week, which we all checked out a bunch of the trailers from this week, and we were rather impressed with Akuma-kun.
Yes.
Which is an adaptation of a Shigeru Mizuki manga, the Gege no Kitaro guy. And I have no idea what this is. It just looks very, very much like Kitaro.
Yes.
So looking forward to that. What kind of caught your guys' eye about this?
Well, the
Mizuki's artwork.
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, it's Mizuki. What confused me in a good way was that, if that makes sense, is that when it came on, I was like, "That's Mizuki," but everything was fresh. And I was just like, "The heck is going on?" And then that wonderful music that's playing in the trailer, I was just like, "Oh, what is this?" And it clearly looks like a kind of like a mystery, like ghosts. Supernatural mystery paranormal thing going on. And but since I'm a Mizuki fan, I'm just like going, well, yes, absolutely, I'm going to watch this. This is
well, it's Mizuki. There's going to be paranormal. It's kind of the thing.
But it just looks good. I mean, Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like it'll be a fun romp.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
very much so. Netflix spending the money.
Yep.
You know, gotta love it. All right, let's move on to the breakdown. Talk about some of the news of the week. So let's definitely talk about Masao Maruyama.
Yes.
So I don't want to be too dismissive, right? Like we said,
right.
This happens. I do think it's interesting, this question of, do we really think, or what is holding back, so to speak, the Chinese animation industry from seeing the kind of success that Japan does? Is it just the government, or is it more than that, do we think?
I literally think it's just the government, and with major markets purposely closing their doors to it. Like, it's going to be hard for, I think, for this kind of product to come from Japan to America, China to America. It might come through back channels like Japanese, and then that way through, you know, conventions and things and DVD releases and stuff like that. But when you're talking about actual releases into theaters or onto television and things like that, it's going to be a political problem. It's going to be about, it's also going to be about whether or not they're actually going to steal intellectual licenses, is whether or not they're going to do that, if they're going to, and also what they're going to allow to be created, because he does make a point, Maruyama does make a point of just like saying there's a freedom, the only thing that's holding them back is freedom. So there's going to be a lot of stuff they're not going to be able to talk about that much, and that you get in other animes, because they will deem it as not congruent with what the state wants to have out there.
I'll be honest, I'm not convinced. I think the Chinese government has been relatively permissive with the anime that's already been produced in China. You've already seen quite a few Chinese anime series. And I think there's plenty they can do in the fantasy and sci-fi space. It's not going to be politically, troublesome. I think, yes, China is absolutely putting money into the Chinese animation industry, but I don't think they have, the 200 studios that Japan has, whatever it is.
Right.
I think just Japan has so much scale with production and just so much diversity of scale that even though, yes, there's, there's a bunch of stuff happening in China, it's just, it can't compete on that alone.
Well, so I've seen plenty of Chinese animes where they draw on a lot of Chinese cultural aspects, whether it's the actual costuming, whether it's names, whether it's, situations that are unique to Chinese. And I've also seen some great ones that are just like stupid rom-coms. And like the only way I knew it was a Chinese anime was at the end they're singing in like Mandarin. I'm like, what the hell happened? How did it go from like Japanese and I'm reading the English subtitles to now a Chinese song at the end? I'm like, what the hell happened? But they've got the technical capability, obviously. But I think it sort of goes with that same kind of thing as like, why do you have great South Korean animation, but they don't have the super dominant market? They do a lot of the outlying work for Japanese studios, but they themselves have not like come as a crushing force that's like, nope, out of the way. And I think it's got a lot to do. I don't think necessarily the Chinese state would really give a crap about most rom-coms or sci-fi or fantasy or isekai kind of things. I think you could have situations where maybe there's some political issues that might come up with about how come characters deal with freedom and oppressive dictatorial governments in a fantasy world. You never know. But I kind of get the sense it's like China could have the capability if they thought that was a market that was worth dominating. You know what I mean? There's a lot to be said for if they turned their focus to it and said, yes, we can wipe out the competition. This is like the next big market block that we need to take. I don't get that sense that they do. Technology, industrial wares and works, and service industry kind of things are really the bigger money game for them. Anime, not so much.
Well, I think also there's a certain sort of historical narrative here too, where it's like, if Japanese anime didn't exist and China wanted to dominate, they could absolutely dominate. Japan has such a first mover advantage of having made anime for 50 years that you just can't do that. So
Well,
I think.
mean,
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say to that point. I mean, it's kind of like when Americans make anime. It's not anime,
right? Yeah.
you know, it's not.
Well, also the one of the things that was always talked about, at least years ago, about post-war reconstruction in Europe and in Asia.
Yeah.
That a lot of the aid programs and tool exchange kind of programs gave the latest developments at that time. So Japan had the first advantage, but now if China really wanted to, the developments in digital animation, the process has been hammered out enough that you can sort of look at how the Japanese have done it and start off at a higher point in that technological scale.
No, absolutely. And I don't mean that this is a production issue. I think it's more in terms of like a brand issue. Like Japan has such a, they've been making One Piece for 25 years. They've been making Naruto for decades. They've had Dragon Ball Z for decades. Anime already has such a presence worldwide that China now just has to be an add-on to that. Like, yes, they can make a bunch of stuff, but they're now part of the anime movement. They're not a new thing. So I think unless China does something vastly different, it's hard for them to, capture the minds and the attention of the world.
Well, there's a point to that because Korean manga is its own thing. Korean anime is its own
point.
Thing.
Yeah.
Chinese anime will be its own thing. Also, I think because they realize maybe now I'm thinking about listening, maybe it's just more of a profit margin kind of thing because what are they being successful with? What is their moneymaker in terms of entertainment? Well, yeah, they're branching out in movies, and also we have Genshin Impact. We have all these games that are coming out of China, and we have TikTok, and we have all these things that they're making. So animation may not be the focus for them because they're probably thinking we can make more and better money, and in ways that will benefit us, not just in profit margin, but in other ways. To create these digital things. Whereas anime, that's fine. We can get our share of the market. We have our own country. We really literally just need to do that. 1 billion people, and that's it. We don't really have to worry about international markets. Anime is not going to do anything for us that, say, Genshin will.
Hoyoverse just launched their new game, Honkai Star Rail, and the day it launched, there were more streams of that than there were of Call of Duty, than there were of Fortnite. Like that took over for a little while. I'm sure it's died down by now, calmed down a little bit.
Out.
But Genshin Impact, far and away makes more money than anything else out there at the moment. So it's like it could be where they're like, we will put some money into anime. We want to have our our feet in that water, but we don't need to compete on the global stage. To your point.
Yeah.
Well, also, I mean, if you want to kick back to Saizai-san and be like, how did anime develop in Japan, and how did it become the sort of stable cultural building block that all otakus love? Do you have that same kind of thing in China? You know what I mean? Did animation in China have the same kind of like cultural current with it, where it's like, that if you wanted to really push that, people would be very comfortable with it because that's always been there? Or have you had more of the movie industry dealing with things like Journey to the West or The Three Kingdoms, or a lot of these large cultural landscape stories that are done in more movie format and much less in an animated format, or stage play format?
Yeah, you got a point there because there's no equivalent of Astro Boy.
Yeah.
Well, that's the interesting thing. So you have,
or at least maybe that we've got a chance to see.
Yeah. Well,
but we sure don't know who Ip Man is.
I mean, China beat Japan to first feature-length animated film by 4 years. Princess Iron Fang came out in 1941. And that was, we don't know, but it seems likely that the creators of Momotaro watched it.
Right.
It was certainly released in Japan and was well known in Japan. But then they had this little Cultural Revolution thing in China.
Yeah.
And that kind of pushed back the focus on like making cartoons for a while.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what happened, is that those industries just kind of went away for a long time, because just who's going to put money into that? Who's going to watch it? Who's going to fund it?
Which, I mean, as far as we know, during Mao's time period, there may well have been, some kind of animated something that was all about supporting, the
Right.
party, and about,
Mhm.
getting people on board with collectivism and blah blah blah.
Oh yes. So
that's not grand fantasy stuff.
I'm looking it up right now. I probably should have read this ahead of time. February 1950, the group of folk came together, and then in 1957, the central government sponsored the first and official animation factory of China.
Yeah.
According to Wikipedia, at the time they were relatively on pace with the rest of the world. They used folk art cut paper animation with Pigsy Eats Watermelon in around that time. And then they did some animation film exhibitions, did a few other things. And then there's a section of the article titled Cultural Revolution Interference.
Yeah. Okay. We'll call it that.
Yeah, exactly. And then by 1978, it was clear that significant damage had been done by the Cultural Revolution. Imagine that.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
In a 20-year span from 1960 to 89, most cartoons in Hong Kong were U.S. imports.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yep.
And Doraemon and Transformers were the main big things on TV, as opposed to Chinese stuff. So yeah. And then there were others made, and then they're saying the digital era, 1990 to present, is kind of where things start really ramping up.
Right. Well, a lot of that offshore work again for other studios, that competencies are built. But
yeah, there's a line in Wikipedia. I'm kind of surprised this made it on here. They were watching Doraemon in China while the Pokemon anime was being broadcast internationally. Like, that was the gap.
Wow.
Yeah.
At least they're getting anime.
Yeah. Before 1993, whatever you made was decided by Beijing. Quotes Shanghai studio director Jin Guoping.
Yep.
Anyway, interesting. Other useful quote for us: in 2011, 261,000 minutes of television animation were produced in China, and in 2012, 33 animated films.
Damn.
So they're making a lot. It's certainly being produced, and to your point, like it's quality. Like they've got it there. It's just breaking out.
They're keeping it domestic.
Yeah. And granted, like Netflix has the Neja film, which is the highest grossing non-US animated film of all time. You can watch it on Netflix. It's right there.
Damn.
From like 3 years ago.
Cool.
So it is making its way over here. What else? Do we need to talk about first slam dunk in China?
Basketball film. What the heck is going on? Yao Ming was the Chinese basketball player, big tall guy. So okay,
sure.
I didn't realize it was that popular.
Every more news item I get about first slam dunk makes me want to watch the movie more, just to understand what is the appeal.
Get what's happening.
My fear is that we'll watch it, and at the end of it, I'll go, and like I usually do with most sports anime. I'm like, and okay.
Which was kind of our reaction to Mugen Train.
Right, yeah.
Fine film. Please don't slash my tires. But, it did not appear to be a $10 billion film, whatever it was.
For all the Kimetsu no Yaiba folks, it was all the $10 billion. For those of us as casual watchers, it was a little well, that was well animated.
Yes, that was very nice. That was a very pleasant 5 hours. Not really, but it kind of felt like that's what happened.
I
Okay.
didn't cry nearly as much as Suzume.
True. Yeah. Should we talk about the Gegege origin film?
I'm excited to see it. This is
Yeah,
cool.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I'm just so full of speculation on this. Whoops, the wrong one. There we go.
So I wonder where they're taking this, because in his
From the beginning.
from
Thank you.
So when Mizuki actually did his first drawings of this, it was from a Japanese folklore about a boy who lived in the graveyard and named Kintaro. And one of the early images that he drew was like really horrific, of this like one-eyed boy crawling out of the grave. And it was for the Kambiashi or what was it called again? For the Kamishibai. Thank you. Yeah, language is hard for me today. But when he went into the manga, when they said, no, we need this to be more kid friendly, not like scare them into like not wanting to leave the house. He made this story about it, about how, how he was born, what happened to his parents, why his father lives in the empty eye socket. And we'll just leave it at that for those of you who don't know.
Papa eyeball.
Yeah. And, and that's kind of the origin story. So I'm kind of looking at this, which is massively different.
And I'm guessing that's his dad in the upper
left.
I was thinking.
Yep.
Yeah. His dad on the left. I don't know who that is on the right. I have no idea.
With the Arasaka rifle.
Yeah.
Right. And all of those, please help me on the name of those shrine or those markers.
Buddhas?
Yes.
The little Buddhas?
It's begins with an S. But anyway, these are like little, not just grave markers, but these are like spiritual markers. And they're dripping with blood. So clearly something bad is happening. So, they have to do something here. I don't know. Yeah. I'm just very, very intrigued.
This is a fantastic poster.
Yeah, it is.
Like how to get you interested. Just the composition of it, the white and the red, to have that kind of thing to kind of intrigue you, and then the not quite bright, but just the blues that are enough to draw your eye in and see the different characters, and then Kitaro, is this tiny little thing, but also like the same size and shape as the Greystone markers. Like,
and he's not covered in blood, but everything else.
No, exactly. Yep. Yeah,
he's clean for some reason.
Wow.
Yeah.
So is that. So, and it's kind of interesting how the light, it's like a ray of light that's just cutting through as if, are they underground? Are they, I'm speculating and I want to watch this.
I love the fluttering cherry blossoms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And his mother is not in the picture here. Oh, and by the way, his father, we're assuming that's his father up there, does not look like that in the mangas.
Yes, that is very true. Yes.
Keep it at that.
It's a rather different form.
Yes. Well, this is an origin. So this might be before that.
Before, yes.
This is probably how he became that.
Exactly.
How that happened.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We'll see. Yeah. I think that's all I want to talk about. Anything else from you guys?
I just want to watch this.
Yes. All right. That's all the news for the week. Thanks for watching. See you all next week.
Sayonara.
Cheers to Papa.